disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello and good evening. This is Don Swans, and for the next hour I'll be reading from the April 26th issue of the Wall Street Journal Review on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Front page. Picture taking over the top of the page. A woman sitting at a table, something like a dining room table, looking into the future, somewhat forlorn, sad. The title, "My son was killed by Hamas. The pain isn't getting better." In an exclusive book excerpt, Rachel Goldberg Poland writes about mourning her only son and eldest child, Hirsch, nearly 2 years after his death. Once upon a time, I was meandering down the road of life with my husband, John. It was a regular and beige life, and it worked. It was a warm beige. We felt and were blessed and lucky. Normal. Suddenly one day, while walking along our way, a metamorphical 18-wheeler semi-truck hit us from behind and broke every bone in our bodies. All 412 of our combined bones were fractured. Our spirits were mangled and our hearts were stolen. Our life was stolen. That day was October 7th, 2023. Our only son, Hirsch, our eldest child, had just turned 23 4 days before. He was attending the Nova Music Festival, advertised as being for love, unity, and peace. Terrorists descended on the festival and on other communities in the area, killing more than 1,200 people, torturing and raping hundreds, and stealing 251 of them. After having his dominant left arm blown off by a grenade, Hirsch was taken from the bomb shelter. He was loaded onto a pickup truck with 3 other young wounded men. They were driven to where they all endured an odyssey of suffering, starvation, and torment that is hard for me to cook into digestible words. The hostages taken on October 7th were from 28 different countries. There were Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, and Buddhists. The youngest hostage was a 9-month-old red-headed baby, and the oldest was an 86-year-old grandfather. Some were released in negotiated diplomatic agreements after 52 days. Some were released after 491 days, some after 738. Some were murdered, and their bodies were taken to be used as bargaining chips. After 843 impossible days, the final deceased hostage was returned to his family for proper burial. Some survived in their macabre captivity until they were killed hundreds of days later in their subterranean infernos. This is what happened to my Hirsch. He and 5 other young, luminous, and beloved hostages endured starvation, torment, lack of hygiene, and complete severance from the world in a cramped tunnel. 66 feet underground, without electricity or plumbing, for 328 days. And then they were all executed at close range, most with the guns pushing into their skin while they were shot numerous times. Their bodies were returned to their families on day 330. They were all skeletal, filthy. The coroner estimated they were not bathed in months, bearing scars of torture and riddled with close-range bullet wounds. Hirsch had 6, and his hair was covered in gunpowder. This is the backdrop to the forever journey along which John and I now limp. And though the backdrop is peculiar, I have learned that the specifics of what leads to pain are not critical to understanding actual suffering. But I share those details so that you don't feel lost in learning about our loss. Since this collision, I've discovered suffering is all the same. Same. The set design is of how things unfold for each of us varies. But a loss is a loss. So your suffering is like mine, and mine is like yours. Mine has been quite public, but otherwise the same. How do we miss someone forever? I stared at the fat cypress tree towering directly in front of me during the memorial to Hirsch, and kept asking that question in a loop in my head. How do we do this forever? This missing. How do we do this forever? How do we do this forever? I thought of the African proverb that says, it takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a universe to mourn one. So says me. And I'm only one person. So how do I do this? I have all these tricks and shticks and lies and techniques and self-advice and methods and tactics and approaches. What helps depends on the moment, and that morphs over time. Things that worked in December have run their course. and it's time for something new. Something that stopped being effective suddenly emerges recharged, and presto, it works again. Morning is ever developing and growing and changing and mutating. Me too, I think. So I'm not the same bereaved mother from September, January, Passover, or yesterday. I'm cooking slowly, boiling away, evaporating, changing and freezing solid all at the same time. Someone call a physicist. I look around and say morbidly to myself, and sometimes to others, the thing about this life is no one gets out of here alive. Everyone is dying. See that person over there? Dead. Him, that guy with the teeth, dead. You with the red sandals, bye. Every single person is on their way to death, including me and everyone I've ever met, seen, known, learned from, spoken to, or cared about, loved, dying. Every single one. You too. Then the dusty elephant, with those arched and dome-like toenails that is standing on my breastbone is lighter. And he also is dying. And his thick skin will do nothing to prevent it. Hirsch died earlier than I wanted. I wanted to have my children and grandchildren all outlive me. Such a reasonable request, I thought. Please let my children bury me. I begged for this in my prayers. Daily, my prayer was answered differently than I had wanted. I say it out loud to Hirsch. We are all dying. But I wish you had buried me. One day at a time. One day at a time. 1 hour at a time. 1 minute. 1 second. One. It's the sound of the machine when you visit someone in the hospital. Breathe and remember, everyone dies. As Hirsch's first Jahrzeit passed, we continued to fall through time. Countless people sang the usual songs to us. I hope with time it's getting better. So well-meaning, of course, but also tone-deaf in their implicit call for us to be better. I certainly don't blame anyone for trying. I wouldn't know what to say to me either. But I'm going to break some very heavy news. It is not getting better. That man told me that the kindest thing I can do is to tell the truth about that. And there you have it, the truth. Each morning, the clock somehow turns backward, as if a formidable, pale index finger with a square trimmed nail rewinds the hands. There is no moment of forgetfulness, no reprieve from the certainty of loss. And so I am forever starting over with the torment of loss combined with an itchy yearning. Get it? Get it? Grief can change shape over time for people, but it will be ever present. It nestles and entangles itself in for the long haul. It is an emotion that is doused over the closely bereaved over and over. One hair never dries. We've used to touch him, see him, hear his voice, smell, and yes, even taste him in our daily experience of him. This rope that tied him to it, or that tied him to us, is still wound around us like our tefillin, and it always will be. Cherished friends of ours have a child who went for a big trip to South America when he finished his national service. After 6 months, do you think his parents missed him less? Of course not. They missed him more. They started to count down the days until they would see him again, hug him again, smell him again. They crave him more. So why would we be any different? Why would any bereaved parent miss their child less as the time passes? The time passing makes the thirst more frantic, more extreme, more desperate, more. Every day I pick up the giant backpack of cumbersome, crippling starvation and confusion and put it on. I adjust that weird waist belt with the strong back clips to amortize the load, and I carry it through my day, through my life. Please, may we all get more mighty, all of us. We forever thirsty, forever filled with desire for our children who are in the ground. May our children help us from the world to come, to pull up the straps of our backpacks and make them less heavy on our weary frame. I'm looking for things that can bind our family, our universe, back together. I think Hirsch was our glue, or maybe each of us in any dynamic is the glue. And whoever leaves first takes the sticky paste with them. We were 5, and it worked. We were a cluster of 5 that fit together, not seamlessly and perfectly, but perfectly and seamlessly. Now we are 4 confused people bobbling up and down in this cauldron of unbearable repetition. I'm trying to become something sustainable, and we're trying to become 4. 4 is a cute number. It's even. It has 3 lines that have no curves. We have dear friends with two dynamic and talented daughters. I adore them. No one is missing. They are the perfect four, like the suits in a deck of cards. I want to be like that. But for now, we're living in a body with extra skin after losing too many pounds too quickly. And it is strange that John is the only boy here. Not just at home, but everywhere we go. Hirsch came to us 2 years before October 7th and said the way we practiced religiously was not calling to him, and he was not going to be doing everything we did. Yet he kept coming with us to synagogue and sitting through long service, both Friday evenings and Saturday mornings. It was his getting up on Shabbat mornings to join us at synagogue that most gladdened and baffled me. If religious practice was not speaking to him, why in the world, after staying out late with his friends, would he still get up early and drag himself to synagogue? I asked him in the early summer of 2023, and he said, I don't want Dada to sit alone. At our synagogue, men and women sit separately. Though if Hirsch did not attend, John was by himself on the men's side, while I sat with our girls on the women's side. I realized what Hirsch did not understand. When we do things that are easy or important to us or speak to us, those things don't require real effort because we want to do them. But when someone does something they don't want to do, yet they do it out of love and respect, that to me is holy. And so Hirsch, in this way, was more religious than many who use that word as a brand. Now, John does not sit alone at synagogue. Every time his usual seat from where he and Hirsch sat together, where everyone commented on how sweet it was that Hirsch would rest his head on John's shoulder. It was love, yes, but also wanting a cat nap, because Hirsch was still tired from that night out. In the after, John prefers the seat all the way against the wall. Maybe it lessens the phantom pain of not having that piece with himself on his shoulder. On the woman's side of our synagogue, I put my face up, close my eyes, and feel the sun through the tall windows. Behind my thin lids, the rays almost hurt my pupils. And I say to myself, God, help us. No more pain, just love and strength. No more pain, just love and strength. Shine on us, Hirsch. Let us feel your love and your light. This is what we aspire to, feeling him without pain. I don't know if that is a reasonable or achievable goal, but we have to act like it's possible, like we are possible. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from the Wall Street Journal Review on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. And now looking at different things differently, let's take a look at this article. It's entitled, "Is AI Smarter Than People?" It's complicated. As a neuroscientist, I conducted research into artificial versus human intelligence. The results surprised me and suggest we've been worrying over the wrong things. This article is the product of Vivian Ming, who is a theoretical neuroscientist, cognitive scientist, and the author of Robot Proof: When Machines Have All the Answers, Build Better People. Who's smarter, the human man or the machine? In the 30 years I've worked in artificial intelligence, that's been the question driving the conversation. We've also been sold a story about AI that goes something like this. It will handle the tedious routine work, the research, the first draft, the number crunching, while we focus on the interesting parts: creativity, judgment, the human touch. My research suggests that we've been asking the wrong question and drawing the wrong conclusions. A few months ago, I recruited adults from San Francisco's Bay Area for an experiment. I gave each group 1 hour to make the predictions about real-world events, using scenarios drawn from the prediction market platforms Polymarket. This provided us a rigorous, objective way to check results against the collective wisdom of thousands of financially motivated forecasters. In addition to AI making predictions on its own, some human teams worked alone, while others worked as human-AI hybrids. Polymarket has a data partnership with Dow Jones, the publisher of the Wall Street Journal. The human groups performed poorly, relying on instinct or whatever information had come across their feeds that morning. The large AI models, Chapter GPT and Gemini in this case, performed considerably better, though still short of the market itself. But when we combined AI with humans, things got more interesting. Most hybrid teams used AI for the answer and submitted it as their own, performing no better than the AI alone. Others fed their own predictions into AI and asked it to come up with supporting evidence. These validators had stumbled into a classic confirmation bias loop. the sycophancy that leads chatbots to tell you what you want to hear, even if it is not true. They ended up performing worse than AI working solo. But in roughly 5 to 10% of teams, something different emerged. The AI became a sparring partner. The teams pushed back, demanding evidence and interrogating assumptions. When the AI expressed high confidence, the humans questioned it. When the humans felt strongly about an intuition, they asked the AI to come up with a counter-argument. The hybrids were becoming cyborgs. These teams reached insightful conclusions that neither a human nor a machine could have produced on its own. They were the only group to consistently rival the prediction market's accuracy. On certain questions, they even outperformed it. It's not that these people were more intelligent than the others in the study, but they demonstrated two important qualities: perspective taking and intellectual humility. Perspective taking is the ability to genuinely inhabit another point of view, not to debate it, not to tolerate it, but actually inhabit it. Intellectual humility is the ability to recognize the edge of your own knowledge and to sit with that discomfort rather than trying to rush to fill it. Both of these qualities are, at root, emotional skills. Perspective taking requires genuine curiosity about minds other than your own. Intellectual humility requires a kind of emotional courage, the willingness to feel uncertain, even a little foolish, in the presence of something or someone that seems very sure of itself. These are not the soft skills we typically celebrate. We celebrate confidence. We promote decisiveness. We are building AI systems specifically designed to give us the answers before we feel the discomfort of not having it. What my experiment suggests is that the human qualities most likely to matter are not the feel-good ones. They're the uncomfortable ones. The capacity to be wrong in public and stay curious. To sit with a question your phone could answer in 3 seconds and resist the urge to reach for it. To read a confident, fluent response from an AI and ask yourself, what's missing? Rather than default to, great, that's done, to disagree with something that sounds authoritative and to trust your instinct enough to follow it. We don't build these capacities by avoiding discomfort. We build them by choosing it, repeatedly in small ways. The student who struggles through a problem before checking the answer. The person who asks a follow-up question in a conversation. The reader who sits with a difficult idea long enough for it to actually change one's mind. Most AI chatbots today default to easy answers, which is hurting our ability to think critically. I call this the information exploration paradox. At the cost of information approaches zero, human exploration collapses. We see it in students who perform better on AI-assisted tasks and worse on everything afterward. We see it in developers shipping more code and understanding it less. We are, in ways that feel like progress, slowly optimizing ourselves out of the loop. This is the divergence I worry about. Not the dramatic science fiction scenario of AI replacing humans wholesale, but the quieter process of people gradually outsourcing their judgment in increments too small to notice. Over time, this produces two kinds of people. Those who use AI as a genuine intellectual partner, whose thinking actually gets sharper through the friction of the collaboration, and those who get better at securing quick answers and worse, at knowing what questions to ask. So what can any of us actually do about it? Start with the reframe. The goal of working with AI isn't to get the answer faster. It is to find out what you're missing. Don't deploy AI minions to do the boring work for you, as so many sales pitches argue. Use it as a savant collaborator to explore uncertainty. In practice, that means before you accept an AI's answer, ask it for the strongest argument against itself. When it hedges or qualifies, pay attention. That's usually where the real uncertainty lives. Treat it like a brilliant colleague who has read everything and understands nothing. Use precisely because they're different from you, not because they'll agree with you. For the AI industry, a key design question has gone largely unasked. Is the product building human capacity, or consuming it? Nearly all AI benchmarks measure what AI agents can do alone. We desperately need benchmarks for hybrid intelligence. Errors are signals our brains use to trigger learning. An AI that eliminates friction entirely is often eliminating the learning along with it. A hopeful finding is that perspective talking, intellectual humility, and curiosity are not fixed traits. They can be cultivated and respond to practice, the right relationships and environments that reward uncertainty. But they require us to decide, as individuals of tools, that this is what we're trying to build. And in the race between human potential and human atrophy. The stakes for building it could not be higher. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from the Wall Street Journal Review on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. This week we're going to take a dip into the mailbag because the bag seems to be divided over the so-called masculinity crisis, which is what we had read about last week. An article about television shows grappling with the state of men today elicited a range of opinions. Last week, Michael Ian Black wrote about 3 TV shows: DTF St. Louis, Your Friends and Neighbors, and Rooster, that grappled with masculinity. The article struck a nerve, obviously by the various articles from hundreds of commenting readers. Here's one. I disagree with Hollywood's portrayal of the modern American man. What they present is not reality. It's a distorted vision that can only emerge in a soft, decadent, and declining culture. To me, a man is not defined by his willingness to provide, support, and protect for his family, his close friends, the vulnerable who are bullied, and his nation. That support can take many forms: material, physical, emotional, social, or psychological. A man masters his emotions, remains calm under pressure, refuses to engage in gossip or backbiting, and accept his imperfections while continuing to strive to become the best version of himself. Another one by Colin Dixon, quote, all these complaints about weak male protagonists as woke Hollywood propaganda is so bizarre to me. I grew up with top fathers on TV being Al Bundy, Homer Simpson, Hal, Malcolm in the Middle, Phil Dunphy, Red Foreman, Philip Banks, the fresh air Prince of Bel-Air. Even the most manly of the men still had problems with their kids, jobs, wives, and or friends. They all loved their family and were just doing their best. Being a man isn't how few problems in your life you have. It's how well you handle them and help the people close to you. Ralph Gibson says, most of my friends work hard, love their families, love their country, and are of good moral character. Watching caricatures of men on TV can be entertaining, but it doesn't reflect reality. Plain, simply put. Gabriel Michelli asks, wow, is it really that hard to be a man? I don't think so. I relied on a good sense of humor, a little proportion, taking a few laps around the track to get my head through it, because I know what I can and cannot do. I consider every opinion, then I decide. I make it work. No complaining, no explaining, win or lose. I can live with results if I own them. What else should a man do? Louisa Ruff says, I have raised my 3 sons to be like their father. Strong men who support women. It's doable. It just requires trust on both sides. Something that seems to be in short supply. K. Patel says, the real crisis is the manufacturing of masculinity. Effemination on one side and hyper-aggressive, toxic masculinity on the other. Long gone are the days of silently tough, thoughtful, and intelligent men. Men capable of great action, but also of intense self-reflection. When men made muscle from yard work, not lifting dumbbells. When we had real role models, it just all feels so artificial today. Jeff Evey says this, it seems to me the premise is flawed. That men are either emasculated or overly macho. I just read Scipio Africanus, greater than Napoleon. He did more to save Rome than any person. And he always treated his enemies humanely after they were defeated. This is how we take aim in life. Learning from great people, not silly discussions with false dichotomies. And so much for Mail Tag. I'm sure you've heard of Emma Rosenblum. Among other things, a regular contributor in the review, but also author of the novels Bad Summer People and Mean Moms. In support of this article is a picture of Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway at a publicity event for The Devil Wears Prada 2. What happens when satirical art becomes enamored of its subject? If you think this question skews highbrow, think again. I'm referring to The Devil Wears Prada 2, which stars Anne Hathaway and Meryl Streep, and a closet full of luxury fashion. In the 2 years since the sequel was announced, the pre-release hype has been, in a word, inescapable, particularly if you're female and all interested in fashion or celebrity or have heard of the color serialine. You might assume the May 1 premiere marks a universe-altering event rather than what it actually is. A money-making endeavor playing into millennial nostalgia for recycled IP. That doesn't mean I'm not excited to see the film. It features the same cast as the 2006 movie. The aforementioned Hathaway and Streep plus co-stars Emily Blunt and Stanley Tucci, the same writer, Aileen Brosh McKenna, and the same director, David Frankel. The original, based on author Lauren Weisenberger's thinly veiled workplace revenge fantasy about her time assisting Vogue's editor-in-chief, Anna Wintour, was a huge hit, grossing more than $326 million worldwide. Centering on Andy Sachs, that's Hathaway, as the aggrieved underling to the devilish Miranda Priestley, that's Streep. It was fun and frothy, spawning endless memes before memes were even a thing. I'm just one stomach flew away from my goal weight is a personal favorite. When the first movie came out, I was an assistant editor at New York Magazine, working in a thriving industry on the cusp of digital revolution that would ultimately prove to be its downfall. Sure, it is exaggerated our reality. No magazine assistant, even at Vogue, came to the office dressed in head to toe Chanel. But there was truth in it. The toxic ambition, the long hours, the exciting feeling that you were working on something people cared about. The best part was the sneaky, slightly subversive pleasure of watching an admittedly light takedown of Wintour, who not even dared to whisper a bad word about for fear of burning the most powerful bridge. The fashion world was hesitant to embrace the first movie because everyone thought that Anna hated it, says Amy Odell, the author of Anna, the biography. Wintour, for her part, played the game. She attended the 2006 premiere wearing Prada. In a 2025 interview with New Yorker editor Dave Remnick, Wintour maintained she found the film highly enjoyable and very funny, adding that she and Minuccia Prada shall still discuss it. And I say to her, it was really good for you, says Wintour. And you can imagine what she says back. To which Remnick says, no, I can't. What did she say back? Wintour just laughs. Anna's become such a fascinating character via The Devil Wears Prada, the workaholic, controlling editor with iconic hair and sunglasses, who was wildly successful and for many years was very good at her job, says Odell. Anna tells her friend she likes to be remembered for her philanthropy. But this movie is her legacy. Much has changed in the 2 decades since the first movie. Print magazines are really struggling. Last fall, Vogue announced it would reduce its annual frequency from 10 issues to 8. And just last week, Condé Nast, Vogue's parent company, announced it was shuttering Self magazine, as well as consolidating other parts of the business. My current advice to young people hoping to get into lifestyle media boils down to run away. The Devil Wears Prada 2 reflects this reality. The story follows Miranda Priestley as she navigates her career amid the decline of traditional magazine publishing. According to the synopsis, it's all very meta. In September, Wintour announced she was leaving her job as editor-in-chief of American Vogue, while continuing to oversee things from Condé Nast's C-suite. Vogue, aligning with this movie, Anna used to be above that stuff, but now they feel like they need to do it. It's kind of like how many viral moments can you create on your own, says Odell. Interested in buying branded products? There are many to choose from. Now the collaborations available at Walmart, Target, Old Navy, and Amazon skew more moviegoers than Movie Star, including special edition Devil Wears Prada 2 tweezers from Tweezerman. Each $26 pair features a tiny high heel printed on the side. Which brings us back to satire falling victim to the world it is skewing. The Devil Wears Prada 2 press tour has the distinct flavor of late Sex and the City rot, when the movies became an out-of-touch montage of luxury fashion brands and five-star resorts. Or the latter seasons of Gossip Girl, instead of poking fun at the outrageous Upper East Side lifestyle the show endorsed, with no irony. Both of these franchises suffer artistically for this movie. Their legacies forever tainted by it. At the end of the first movie, Andy quits her job in a fashion magazine for the less morally compromised ground of local investigative journalism. A twist that made us magazine people titter into our popcorn. It's a satisfying comeuppance, the assistant choosing good over high-heeled evil. 20 years later, with magazines on their last legs, Anna, her Miranda is already diminished. Satire only works when the object of ridicule is in a position of power. I guess that means I'm rooting for the devil. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the April 26th issue of the Wall Street Journal Review. We read from the Wall Street Journal Review every Thursday at 7 p.m. Your reader this evening has been Don Swans. I want to thank you for listening, and certainly hope that you'll be with me here next week, same time, same place, on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service with the New York Times. At 9 o'clock, we have Harper's Magazine. And at 10 o'clock, we have the conclusion of Nash Falls by David Baldacci with episode number 14. Stay with us. If you or people you know shop at any of the Dash's supermarkets, please save Dash's register tapes for radio reading. Our agency receives $2 for every $100 in Dash's register tapes. Radio reading has raised thousands of dollars so far. Anyone can drop off their Dash's tapes to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, between William and Clinton Streets. Or Dash's tapes can be mailed to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, New York, 14227. Any questions on Dash's tapes for radio reading? Call us at 716-821-5555, and thanks for caring. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which